السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله.
On the 10th of Muharram, over 1300 years ago, the Battle of Karbala took place, the battle that allowed Islam to grow. Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet, only had 72 companions by his side, but today he has millions standing by him worldwide. The battle showed Yazid's evil attempts of power through torture and greed had miserably failed by causing the Prophet's family to bleed. His desire for worthless material possessions made him form an army fully equipped with weapons. This cost the life of Hussein, his family and his companions, leaving Yazid and his army feel like champions. There was 14-year-old Qasim, his sword dragging on the floor, after pleading to his uncle for permission to fight in this war. Only until Qasim remembered the note given to him by his father years before was when Hussein realized to Qasim he could not stop him no more. Hussein asked Qasim, "O child, how do you find death?" He replied, "To me, death is sweeter than honey," and Qasim fought on until his last breath. Having given the Fajr Azan, Akbar valiantly fought against the army before him, fighting fiercely, defending at every angle, attacking with his sword at every rim. And on Muhammad, young boys who went to fight, sons of Zainab, gave them such will and might. Holding the attacks for long, keeping the enemy in sight, their mother anxious in the camps, prayers she continued to recite. These 4 determined, courageous and strong men gave their best efforts of defense, but one by one they couldn't cope much longer. The attack was too intense. Arrows pierced through their skin, falling to the ground. Bodies being trampled by the horses, in the sand they drowned. Burning in the sand, heads severed on the floor, with Hussein by their side, witnessing this all. From this tragedy, we are taught about the value to forgive. For when Hussein forgave Hur, the man that led them to Karbala, he treated him as a relative. Hur sorrowfully asking for forgiveness, asking to join the right side, fighting with his son on the battlefield, continuing until he died. We cannot forget the strongest, bravest man who was there. The children's thirst he could no longer bear. The man who faced the battle of the mind, a true testament to his will, his duty to his family, to Hussein he would always fulfill. Proudly and determined, Abbas walked towards the water. With an alam and mushk in his hand, he was getting water for Hussein's daughter. But suddenly, full force came all the arrows and attacks. But Abbas was a strong man, he would not be held back. So close he came to the camps with the kids' water. Despite losing his arms, he carried on further. The cries of the children, shouting Al-Atash, Al-Atash, made Abbas move further, strongly gripping the mushk. The tall and strong, yet armless and tired Abbas had fallen to the ground, and in the whole camp, no one dared to make a sound. Suddenly, Sakina was thirsty no longer, for Yazid's army had attacked, and Abbas could not conquer. Abbas had gone too. Hussein could not cope. One by one they were dying. Everyone was losing hope. Baby Asghar was thirsty and needed water as his mouth was so dry, so Hussein pleaded with the enemy for just one sip, whilst Ali Asghar cried. Their reply, a 3-pronged arrow to his neck. The blood poured out into Hussein's hands as he wept and wept. He wanted to throw the baby's blood towards the sky, but the sky refused and said, "If you do this, all of the rain will be denied." Then Hussein was about to throw the baby's blood to the ground, but the ground refused and said, "If you do this, no grain will ever be found." Left with no choice, Hussein tearfully put the blood on his forehead, whilst Ali Asghar laid in his arms, a young baby with so much to give, lifeless, he was dead. Back and forth he walked to the tents with a heavy heart. 7 times he went, trying to figure out what to say to Rabab. It was time for Asr namaz. Hussein went to pray, knowing it was his last. As he bent down, suddenly he was shot at from behind. Shimr smugly stood, not knowing the extent of his crime. Hussein had been killed. Everyone who was left remained still. With all the bodies of the men left unburied, with their heads taken off, Yazid's army carried. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the tents were set alight, forcing out those who were left, whilst everything began to ignite. And before they were given time to grieve, they were all chained up and forced to leave. Bibi Zainab's scarf was snatched from her head. "O brother Abbas, you lay here dead." All of them were stunned and shocked, and were now taken to the streets to be mocked. One by one, they all began to walk. Beginning the torturous journey, no one dared to talk. The new Imam chained up and pulled along, while Sakina tearfully followed on. They arrived to a dirty, damp and dark prison, where they were held, couldn't even see where the sun had risen. But Bibi Sakina just wept and wept, until one day people thought she had slept. But after seeing the head of her beloved father, she left this world to the world hereafter. Bibi Zainab protected and comforted those women and children, caring for them all. Even though she had too lost her brothers, sons and nephews, she continued and stood tall. Speaking at Yazid's palace, she said, "Our blood is dripping from their hands, and our flesh is falling down from their mouths. The sacred bodies of the martyrs have been placed at the disposal of animals of the jungle. If you have gained something today by shedding blood, you will certainly lose on the day of judgment." Years and years on, this story is still spoken, and now we won't ever let it be forgotten or broken. O Hussein, do you remember when you cried, "Hal min Nasir yansurna"? Now millions visit to stand by your side, shouting, "Ya Husseina." We stand here determined and strong in our faith. As we share your story to the world, in our hearts you and your family will never be erased. For surely, the Imam was able to forgive the man that led them astray. So how can we deny forgiveness to those who have caused us pain? From Abbas reaching the water, yet to drink he refrained, saving it for his family, saving it for Hussein. So how can we not look after our families, not bring them water, and not protect their name? From Zainab's determination, strength and courage, she protected her family in vain. Left with nothing, not even her scarf, yet her might remained. So how can we become weak or give up when we are struggling, when after losing her family, Zainab's courage maintained? From when Hussein and 72 companions stood in the face of adversity, against the oppression and injustice from an army of over 1,000 men, knowing he had only these few people to protect Islam to defend. So how can we stand by today and let injustice, inhumanity and oppression occur when Hussein taught us to stand up in the face of the oppressor, demand morality and equality, and never allow acts of mistreatment again? After reading this, we should improve our behavior. O Hussein, you are our savior.